What is up, guys? We are back again with a brand new episode of Sound Advice. If you noticed, HiFi Vega has changed his name, and that's because we have to congratulate him today, Mr. 10K. He has finally gotten 10,000 subscribers. Take your bow, HiFi Vega. Take your bow.
Yeah. I'm shooting for 100K by the end of this year, so let's make it happen.
100K. If you get 100K, I'm excited too because I want to get there too. Bold, Bring me with you.
I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying it's bold. That's the whole name it and claim it right there worldview.
Right.
Right now, he has an entire small city watching his channel, which is pretty good. All right, and of course, we have DIY audio guy Justin with us as well. What is up, Justin? How are you doing today, man?
I'm living the high life.
Nice. So you've been drinking some beer, I guess.
No.
You said living the high life, man. Don't use someone else's.
Well, they have been sponsoring a lot of podcasts, so Miller High Life, holler at us.
If someone will sponsor the podcast, I'll gladly, consume whatever your product is, assuming that's a normal consumer good. Who knows?
I'll keep that in mind when someone for motor oil contacts us. Hey guys, let's go ahead and get this started off. Before we get too far into the things, we're going to be talking today about things, products, companies, maybe responses of things that have surprised us. This is a really ambitious. I mean, really, this term means very little, right? So surprising us can mean a lot. It can be good, it can be bad. So it's kind of exciting about what we're going to be talking about today. But before we get into that, we did get a new website, and I want to share that website with you guys because I think that you guys might want to check it out. So this is the website right here. This is Sound Advice's website. I did link it in the description of the video. You can go ahead and check it out. It has links to some of our videos. It has articles that we've written. It does have all of the podcasts on there. And if you want to click on podcasts as well, you have the access to listen to any of your favorite podcasts. So we're on all the major podcasts, guys. We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, Amazon Music, Google, TuneIn Radio, all of those. So make sure to check that out.
Soundadviceshow.com. Very easy.
Soundadviceshow.com. I forgot it.
That's why I popped in.
All right, guys. So let's go ahead and kick this show off right now with a product or company that has surprised you. Justin, HiFi Vega, kick us off. I have a couple cool stories to say. I know this week as well.
I'm gonna just dive right in here, and I've got a driver. For those who are watching on the podcast, I'm showing a driver. It's a 3.5-inch driver. And the magnet is about as big as the cone. Don't know how well y'all can see that, but yeah, it's a plastic frame, but it's a really heavy, thick plastic. This right here is a BMR, a balanced mode radiator. I think it's from Tectonic Elements, it says on the back. And if you've ever used one of these BMRs, they are really amazing what you can do with them. I bought 4 of them. I put them in 2 enclosures. I built these years ago before I started my channel, just because they look like they'd be a hoot to try out. They're a full range speaker. They allegedly have some kind of crazy technology that allows you to play full range when others can't. So I loaded this thing into in an enclosure. So 2 of them were in like about a 1/2 cubic foot enclosure with a really big port for an enclosure that small. And I was just stunned at the amount of bass that I got out of 2 3.5-inch drivers. It was, shaking things in my office, that kind of stuff. It's just kind of like a little party trick. Someone will drop by and I say, how much bass can you get out of 4 3.5-inch speakers? Not much. Oh yeah. Let's see.
Those BMRs are really interesting. So if you show that again, the way it, and I don't really understand the technology completely, but basically if you notice, the cone isn't a cone. The cone is a flat surface, and that's supposed to radiate the high frequencies out, while of course the normal surround and stuff radiates the low frequencies, if I understand it correctly.
This cone has a dent in it. These have been worse for wear. They've been passed around to and have been sitting in the garage for a little while.
Hey guys, we have made Sound Advice history, so I got to bring this up. We have a girl watching.
Oh, welcome.
That says "and girl." They look like a rooster, but they're a girl watching. Wow. So check that out. Yeah, we must have our ladies shirts on tonight.
We've all our stats are gonna go crazy now.
Yeah. Now the feminine line. So I want to share a story because this story has got me excited, and this is really where this came up. Now, are you guys familiar with Definitive Technology?
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Okay, Definitive Technology sell high-end home theater speakers. They're products that are already made. This is a crazy story. I bought some used BP 2000 TLs for really, really cheap off of Facebook Marketplace. Loved them. One of the amplifiers completely fried out of it. And then a few months later, and it was already fried when I got it, but then a few months later, the other one fried. I eventually gave them to my friend, Robbie. And Robbie was going to fix them. Really, it was just way too much damage to really get them fixed. So he sent them off to Definitive Technology. Definitive Technology went to go fix them. Couldn't really fix them. And not to mention, this is right when COVID hit. And when COVID hit, the main people that fix their amplifiers also fix medical equipment. So they had a little bit other priorities going on. And so they contacted Robbie after a while of not being able to do much with them and said, hey, look, man, we are not going to be able to fix these. They're just really not going to be able to be fixed. And honestly, we can't get replacements for them. How about we send you the brand new BP 9080Xs, which are $1,800 a piece, for the same cost it would be for the repair, which, guys, is way less than way less, like under 10% less. Like, I mean, like 10% of the cost. I mean, it's probably like 8% of the cost of an actual one. I mean, it was crazy. I don't want to say the exact cost because I don't think everyone got a deal like that. But I can get behind companies that are willing to really take care. And these are 20-year-old speakers, and they took care of him like that. And that's crazy.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, it's sometimes you just hear stories of just like a heroic customer service where a company is just like, yeah, you know, and of course, in this case, it's a little different situation. They would actually probably have lost money fixing them because they could have put their investment into something much higher value. Just, it literally would have been cheaper to just send them a new one.
Well, they came out and said, look, I'm going to tell you right now, we're losing money on this. Like, we are not making money. They provided shipping and everything to him for the same cost. I mean, it was crazy. I can't, and those things are heavy duty. They're awesome. 2 passive radiators in each one, 12-inch powered subwoofer. I mean, they're just great. And Atmos up-firing module, just really crazy.
Once you do something like that, you gain a customer for life because that little bit of cost up front is going to pay off in dividends because not only is he going to be telling the story to his friends, you know, his friends will be telling the story, and you know, it just builds goodwill. So, yeah,
it really, you're absolutely right. And I have a hard time with companies nowadays because a lot of companies just don't care about you anymore. Which is why I wanted to bring that company up. I thought that fantastic news. So even though we typically talk DIY, that was just unbelievable.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know if you guys watch RVH's channel, but he literally blew 2 kicker. I forget which they were the Q series.
Yeah, they were good ones. Yeah.
Yeah. The best ones I sell. And even though it was his fault, they replaced them not only once, but twice.
Wow. That is amazing.
So RVH, if you're in the chat, we seen you. I do have my thing. Something that surprised me. Let's see if I can get to focus here. This is a Walmart pair.
Oh, Hyper Tough
cable cutters, Hyper Tough. They're $4. There's no affiliate link for these because I don't have Walmart affiliate. But go in store, see if you can find. These are the best wire cutters you can get for $4. They're probably better than the pair of Kleins I have, and most people know how much I love Klein. But
I was about to say, I know that you're just a little bit of a Klein fanboy, but for good reason. But you see that pair of Hyper Tough are that good.
Yeah, I can't speak to durability because I've had 2 pairs, and one of them I broke by running over it with my truck. But I left.
I don't think most people have to worry about that.
That's how I broke my cat. I mean, it's a lot more expensive than a pair of pliers.
Right. And this pair I've had about 5 or 6 months, and they're still sharp as day. I got them. So, I mean, and if they get dull, I guess I'll just toss them in and spend $4 more.
Yeah. What about speakers or some type of technology that has surprised you guys? Anything that you guys have that has really surprised you? we could talk tools all day. I mean, there's all kinds of great tools that we can find. But what about technology? What about you, HiFi?
Well, the kicker key, that's obviously I've talked about that several times, but I'm trying to think the most speaker that surprised me the most, maybe like the Rockford Fosgate P3. When I done the shootout, that subwoofer, if you just look at it, it was a P312. It kind of looks like it's geared just for a bass heavy response, which it does. It has a bass heavy response, but also that thing sounds incredible. I mean, it really shocked me how controlled and how well it sounded in the enclosure that I tried it out in. So I was expecting it to just be kind of a bass head product, and it definitely wasn't. It was a very, very good sounding subwoofer.
Thanks, True Voice of Reason. Is this better? I pulled the mic a little closer to me, and I
significantly.
It's hard to get these mic levels right. I think I was fine before the show. I think I backed up a little bit is what I did. So thanks for letting us know the mic wasn't working there.
All right, so I'll go ahead and go with one too. Off of that, I think DSP in general, and you guys, I want to hear from you guys. DSP has gotten so inexpensive and so good. Dayton Audio has the new. They call them the DSP-B boards. They have a bunch of different ones that they have there that actually use Sigma Studios. And Sigma Studios, as long as you buy that in-circuit programmer to program these things, is extremely powerful. Now, it's not easy to use, especially if you're a beginner, but extremely powerful. I mean, there's things that you can do with that now that, I don't know, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, would have either cost you an arm and a leg to do, or it just wasn't going to be possible for a consumer to get their hands on.
You know, you've heard me say this before. I feel like I say it way too much, but I remember when I was a kid and I was really getting into this stuff, I didn't get far into it because everything was so expensive. It was unobtainium. And I remember back in the day, Audio Control sold these big equalizers that were like 31 band EQs, and all the car audio guys in the magazines would have like 4 of those suckers. I mean, what do you need 4 times 31 bands of EQ for? What? I don't even know they had the tools to tune those back then. And it was so, amazing to me. I've had good luck with that Dayton Audio, the DSP 408. I know that not everyone else has, but I'm looking at this thing and it was $150, and it was, not too far off from what a crossover would have cost back in the day. And, I don't use all the EQ features of it. It's 10 bands per channel, a fully parametric EQ. And I don't, it's a little bit beyond me to make it sound just right. But being able to have a 3-way crossover that's, controlled on your phone for $150, man, that's cheap.
Yeah. And even like they have the DSP-B, which they have these little units that have 3-way, 2 in and 3 out for RCA. They can plug up to any amplifier. So that's really good for people that want to do like a 3-way loudspeaker. And it's $30. It's a $30 component you stick inside your computer. Inside each speaker. I mean, that's so interesting. I mean, that's less than what it probably would cost you for just an actual crossover itself, like a passive crossover.
Yeah, the DSP 408, that is the best bargain you can get in DSP right now. If you need, you're going to need the 6 channels out. A lot of people have issues with it just because, I think their expectations are Helix level on $150 prices,
right.
and it's just not going to happen.
You can't expect $600 performance from a $150 device. That's absurd.
And I will throw out the mini DSP 2x4 is $110. Also a very good budget friendly. It's only going to give you room for, maybe a front stage or maybe a front and rear or a front and stub, something like that. But
still,
yeah.
I tell you what, guys, I'm kicking myself over this. A couple of years ago, I was cruising through a local pawn shop, and they had one of those multi-channel whole house audio amplifiers. So it was like, 10 channels or something like that, or 8 channels, 30 watts per channel. You could bridge some of them. I remember looking at it thinking, I've got a DSP 408. I've got everything I need with this thing, and I can make a fully active, speaker, a stereo speaker. And I thought, I don't need that. And I walked away from it, and, been kicking myself ever since.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to say in general that the DSP for consumer grade has gotten very powerful and very cheap. So much so that, like you said, the kicker key can auto tune your setup for you. The dsp-lf, which is specifically made for subwoofers, auto tune for you right with your cell phone. I mean, you don't need a lot of crazy expensive gear to get really good sound now, which is impressive.
Yeah, and I'm all about DSP and everything you can, even if you don't use it. Having it there at some point, you might want to use it or make a small adjustment, and having that there will absolutely save your life.
Well,
Have you guys seen this yet? You have,
Yeah, I've
Justin,
got
because
one.
you have one. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the Aurilic 2.1 powered amplifier. It's a DIY amplifier for 2.1 use. Has Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, has extension boards for like fiber optic, all kinds of other things that you can do. It also has whole house wire streaming. Another thing that, like, before, like what you were saying with that amplifier, beforehand, tens of thousands of dollars, right, to put that in, and even still can't, especially if you go with Sonos system. Something like this, very inexpensive, and it has DSP on it, so you can actually DSP the 2.1 board, which making like a small 2.1 power system with like the full range, like those BMR drivers that you have, and like a subwoofer. This would make it a very affordable way to get the best sound out of all those, which I've been really impressed with Aurilic. They seem to really keep pushing what they can actually do, which is I like seeing companies that do that.
I have noticed that the DSP on a subwoofer is a lot bigger in home audio versus car audio at the moment. Yeah. I think maybe home audio is a little bit ahead of car audio in that facet. So I expect it to come soon. You know, people to be more into it.
Were you gonna say something, Justin?
I was going to say something, and then I read something in the chat that distracted me, so I forget what it was.
No worries. But, you know, and they are true. Whole house audio is becoming more and more relatively affordable, which I think is a good thing. It's technology that is, once again, surprising me. It's so cool to see, especially if you're in DIY. There are other ways to do it besides Wi-Fi, like Aurilic, although these ones do also hardwire as well, which is nice.
What I was going to say about the Aurilic, the downside to anything like that is that board is great by itself, but it's not anywhere near complete if you just have one of them. It's the kind of thing you've got to go in, you've got to get 2 or 3 or 10 of them to really take it up to what its real potential is.
Yeah, if you want to do that whole house audio, absolutely. Yep, I agree. So what other products do you guys have that have surprised you, companies that have surprised you? I could be talking all day about things that surprise me because I get surprised easily, and I like I like technology.
You know, I don't have any particular stories of fantastic customer service, but things that have surprised me. I tried some of this stuff out right here. I'm holding up a can of Minwax Polycrylic.
Love that stuff.
This is what I used for, you can see a subwoofer in the background. That's my W6 project. I didn't want to go through the trouble of staining things, so I just hit it with that, and it made this fantastic finish. And I was really impressed with how easy it was. If you've already got a piece of wood that looks nice, some birch veneered plywood, something like that, you hit it with that, and it's clear and it looks fantastic. And I've been really happy and surprised with the quality of the results I've gotten with that product.
So to clarify what he's talking about too, a polyurethane will yellow over time. So it's an oil-based, so it'll yellow over time. The polycrylic is a water-based, and because of that, it will keep a clear, nice, beautiful finish. So if you finish it over oak, you're going to get a nice, clear coat over the oak and just bring that natural beauty to life. Where if you use a polyurethane, it's gonna yellow it, and over time, it's going to yellow it even more.
One thing I like about it is the drying time between sanding is 2 hours. And I've tried to stain things, and the can says you got to come back the next day. It's like, hell, I ain't got time the next day. I got to work on my projects on Saturday and Sunday, and then I got to go to work on Monday. If I got to come back Monday in the middle of the day to sand down the stain or something, I can't do it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
For sure. And I'll go right on top of that I do like Danish Oil. I hadn't used it in the past much, but the past couple of years I've used there's like 3 or 4 different shades you can use, and it's the easiest finish you can do if you want something simple. Now, if you want something protected, you definitely want to use a polyacrylic or even a urethane, even though it's going to yellow. I mean,
yeah, and that was Craig who was talking about Danish Oil as well. And the reason why I like Danish Oil, is because Danish Oil actually seeps down into the wood. So instead of creating like that protective finish like a polyacrylic or something does, Danish Oil, although it does, actually penetrates into the wood and continues to go into the wood and into the wood. So the more coats you put on, a little bit different color is going to get to. And I like Danish Oil as well. It's a really nice finish.
I built a desk for my daughter recently. I used tongue oil. I thought I had Danish oil on hand, but it was tongue oil. I liked the way it turned out. It looked pretty good. And I've had some really good luck with shellac. My main outfeed table, which is also a work table, holds my shop vac. I shellac that thing. I don't think it looks good, but wood glue doesn't stick to it.
Now, shellac is nice. Yeah. So I'm going to mention another company. Actually, I'm going to mention a company, one that you guys have never heard of. None of you probably have ever heard of. And I got to talk to the owner of this company and the head engineer basically of this company, and they've really impressed me. They're called Cartesian Acoustic. Anyone hear that?
No.
Like a Cartesian plane.
Cartesian. It's a French word actually. So yeah, but it's Cartesian with a K. And it's Cartesian, and Google search I had to hit Cartesian Audio. You can look at the link below. I have no affiliation with them. They are going to send me a few drivers, I think, to test on the channel. But I talked to this guy, and he just is a really nice guy. His name is Clement. It's French, so it's not Clement. In English, we call it Clement. In French, it's like Clement or something. I don't know. I can't pronounce it in French. So Clement in English. But really nice guy, and he just told me, hey, look, I'm just going to tell you right now, we are all about creating the best loudspeakers that people can buy. And they're doing a really good job of creating new technology. They created new technology for the electric car. So a lot of people don't think about the electric car. It's silent, so you don't hear it. So they needed someone to create a speaker that could go omnidirectional, be loud outside, or go far, I should say, outside, but not be too loud. And so they were the ones behind that. They have been selling OEM for many, many years. So they were selling just to high-end manufacturers. When I say high-end manufacturers, these are the ones we're talking about $30,000, $40,000 a speaker manufacturers, not, definitive technology necessarily. And he wants to try to revolutionize the way that we have loudspeakers. There's loudspeakers he won't put on the market yet, or drivers that he won't put on the market because he thinks there's other ones that are better than his, and he doesn't want to put them out there yet. Interesting. He actually sent an email to a guy the other day, a company, a 6.5 inch, very famous 6.5 inch. You guys probably know which one I'm talking about. That has gotten a lot of excitement recently, very expensive. But he sent a letter to them, an email to them saying, I just want to thank you for pushing us because you created a great product and we want to try to come out with a product as good or better than them. So I don't know. I'm pretty excited about Cartesian Audio. I've never heard any of their drivers. So this is, but I'm excited to find out what they're all about.
Oh, it sounds like he's a good hype man. He got you pumped up, ready to check it out.
But he was an honest man too. And the thing that it surprised me about him is he said, look, I want you to I'm going to send you speakers. If you hate them, just put it in the video. If you like them, put it in the video. I don't care. And guys, that is rare. Okay. Typically what people say for YouTubers is, if you have something bad to say, let me know. Because I've had companies get mad at me because I've said something that I didn't even think was bad. It was just honest. And they've got mad at me. I'm like, look, man, it's my honest opinion. I'm sorry.
Yeah, for sure. And I've, the kicker's the same way. They send me something and it's like, if you're doing a video, do a video. If not, don't. If you don't like it, say you don't like it. There's no thumb on the scale, so to speak, once they send me something. So that's why I really like working with Kicker because, there is some brands that will require something. Another company I would say that's like that is Cadence. I've worked with Cadence a few times. They sent me a product. All that they ask is, they want like a couple posts and if you're going to do a video, but outside of that, the content of your video has nothing. They have no control on that. So I can appreciate that.
Yeah, it's rare to find companies that will do that. That's why I always get behind companies like that. So it sounds like Cadence Audio, Kicker, Parts Express has always been really good with me with that, which is why I continue to work with them because they just want me to be honest, which I can get behind. And then, of course, Cartesian. At least that's what they say so far. We'll see when we get the drivers, right? Justin, we haven't heard from you in a while. Are you alive still?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm just sitting over here looking at this other thing that surprised me that I wanted to show y'all. So this is a little 2.1 amplifier. It's a Dayton Audio product. This right here is the newer model has a variable crossover frequency on the subwoofer. And when the newer model came out, I grabbed 2 of these because the price dropped on these. And this is what is in my kids' rooms for their bedroom systems that I built. And it's just I mean, if you're watching the live stream, it's a little black box with 3 knobs across the top, or the front rather. On the back, you've got inputs for 2 different auxiliaries. It's got an antenna for Bluetooth. And it's just this little relatively inexpensive Bluetooth amplifier. And what I like about it versus like the Aurilic DIY board, it's just not a DIY board. And sometimes you're busy DIYing all the time. You just want something you can plug in and it works. And that's what it does. You plug it in and it works. And I'd love to get my hands on one of the newer ones because it'd be nice to be able to tweak that crossover on the subwoofer. But I've had really good luck with those. They seem to be perfectly reliable. The sound seems okay to me. And it's really compact. It couldn't be more than 6 inches across. And it's perfect for like a desktop system or a bedroom system. And I've been really happy with it. Maybe I haven't been surprised. Maybe I'm just happy. I guess I should say I'm surprised. That's the theme of the show.
Well, and I would say that if I'm looking at a 2.1 amplifier, I want to find something with a variable low pass, high pass on it if I can. Because it does make a difference in how your sound comes, especially where it's crossing over with that subwoofer. So I appreciate that with Dayton Audio that they're doing that. That's why I like the Aurilic as well, is because it comes pre-programmed with a couple that you can hit with the button, or you can go in that DSP program and change it to whatever you want, which is another great feature. But you're right. I think that makes all the difference. Oh gosh, don't you go there. Don't go there.
Right on top of Justin. This is an OG. So this is the original. Well, not the original. It's actually the Plus here. But this little amp right here for at the time was $17 or $18, I think, from Parts Express, maybe a little more. This thing sounds good to a certain point. You can definitely overdrive it. But if you play within its realm, this thing sounds really good.
Have you thrown it on the amp dyno yet?
No, Derek has though.
Dude, there's no way it does 20 watts. I mean, it's
7. It's like 7 or 9 watts.
Yeah, with the power supplies provided. I mean, it is a fantastic. It's $20 amp, right? It's fantastic for $20 as long as you know what you're getting. It's not. I feel like everyone loves that La Pai amplifier. I have one too.
Yeah. It's good. It's good for testing speakers. That's why I keep it on my desk, or on my test bench, because if I need to just test speakers out for functionality, I plug it in. I don't have to fire up my power supply and do all that, hook up amp. I just plug it in and turn it on.
Now here's a question for you. Who makes La Pai amplifiers?
I figured that's why
I do know. Yeah, of course I know. Come on, man. HiFi Vega, who makes them? Come on.
I don't know. I don't know, and I don't care.
You don't care?
No.
I'd love to know, but I don't know. Just stop teasing us and tell us.
Okay, so the company who makes them, you've probably never heard of them. It's called Parts Express.
Oh, okay.
That's one of their house brands. Same with Dayton Audio, which is not surprising when you come across. The reason why I bring that up is because a lot of the products that we've talked about, well, some of the products we've talked about at least, are Dayton Audio, and now we hit La Pai, and they're all the Parts Express's own brand, which is kind of funny when you think about it. It definitely was not planned.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know. That's why when you guys see me reach back there, I was like, he's talking about that amp. I got a little amp I can talk about.
I got a little something back here. Oh, geez. Sometimes we don't want to know what you keep off camera, but in this time we did.
Yeah. Very, very mysterious things. I have another tool that I like that surprised me. If you guys want to see it, this is different than a regular tool. So this is a Klein Multi-Tool, and this thing right here is perfect for working on car audio stuff. You've got your wire strippers combo here. It's got a plier handle. It's got a very healthy, if I could get it out here, Phillips head, a very thick, like a real Phillips head, a real flat head, and a super strong knife here.
Who makes that?
It's Klein.
That's a Klein as well?
Yep.
Klein. Klein.
That's it, man. It's not cheap, but it's Klein. This product, I believe, is one of the products that is made in the USA. And it's very, very useful to just, and it's got the nice little magnetic clip here. Get the sound. And yeah, it's got a little hook. Very, very cool to when you're working on your car. It's pretty much everything all in one.
I got to show this because El Fuego was right with Parts Express. You were right, El Fuego. It was Parts Express. It's a little behind sometimes. So, yeah, that's a handy tool too, because a lot of times I'm reaching for my knife, right, to cut something open, and then I'm reaching for my strippers. And I will tell you, the strippers I like, which doesn't sound right, but the wire strippers I like, I should say, the wire strippers I prefer are the automatic wire strippers. And it seems like you guys don't like the automatics, but or at least you don't use them. I love the automatics, man. I actually have some here, right here.
What do you mean by automatic?
So automatic, you just stick it in here, and then
I've got a pair of those.
And then you don't have to set the diameter of the wire. It doesn't matter if you put 16 gauge in there, 12 gauge, whatever. It'll just strip the rubber off, but it'll keep the wire intact. And these are
a question about those
so much time.
And
this is
are they now?
a Klein Tools.
A Klein
with a K.
See,
Klein.
I misplaced my good wire strippers and was out and about and popped into the Harbor Freight and picked up a pair that used the same operating principle. And I don't like them because they actually cut the insulation. The little teeth that grab a hold of the wire, it cuts the insulation. So on a thin wire, you've got bare wire poking out of the insulation. And what I want to know is that because I bought the cheap Harbor Freight ones, or do they all do that?
They shouldn't. There's see these little things here. It depends on which ones you have, but these will adjust how much it grips on either side. So you might need to readjust yours.
I'm gonna grab my
there's these little dials on it. Some of them, another pair I have is almost like a little Allen wrench you have to stick in there and adjust it.
There's a dial, I didn't notice it, and it's only, as the gauge of the wire gets smaller, it gets to be a worse problem.
Yeah, it should not be an issue. You shouldn't have that issue. I'm gonna guess that it's either because they're cheap or because they're misaligned.
And when I say cheap, I mean they couldn't have been more than $2 with the coupon.
Yeah.
Mine aren't exactly automatic wire strippers, if you can, but you put them inside one of these teeth, and then you have flat bars that hold it, so there is no scraping of the wire whatsoever.
And then you just pull it.
Yeah,
you just pull. You just squeeze the handle.
Yep, you squeeze it together.
No, that's the same thing. That's the same principle as this. Same principle.
Yeah,
as
but
this.
that one you don't have to set anything. This one you have to put within one of these little grooves here.
Oh, you have to set the wire diameter. I got you.
Yeah, you just set it in which one you want to do, and then pull it apart.
Got you. Yeah, so it's the same basic concept, though. It does save you a lot of time and frustration, because sometimes when you get that in there, you're like, saves your arms a little. Now you had a couple tools, DIY audio guy, that have surprised you. Which honestly, when you're in DIY audio, I think tools just automatically surprise you and excite you, especially when you find something inexpensive.
I think about tools. I mean, there's three things we have to do if we're doing it ourselves. We have to have the tools, the gear, the material, right? And we don't talk about the material that much on this show, but it's mostly just MDF and plywood. But you got to have those three things. And if you're doing it on YouTube, you got to have even more gear. But I got one of these. I mean, they're all over the place these days. One of these little flat metal pry bars that are used for getting behind panels and stuff. And I didn't think I needed one. And I saw one and I thought, I'll give it a try. And this thing right here, it will fit into tight spots that nothing else will fit. When the plastic pry tools are bending, this one is not. It doesn't have any give to it. I'm shocked by just how strong it is. If you don't have one, pick one up. I think that 5-Star gave a bunch away during their big Christmas streaming deal, and they're absolutely amazing. They don't mar the surface like I thought they would. I figured I would tear the interior apart with them, but I was just stunned at how well it works. And I wish I had a couple of more of them, because what I do when I'm out working, I take this tool and I put it down and I go, where the hell did I put my tool? And I spend 20 minutes walking around cussing and trying to figure out where my tools are.
So that's interesting that you have that, because I have some of the plastic ones. You can buy the plastic ones right off Amazon. You can buy them off of even Harbor Freight. You can get some cheap ones. I've never used the Harbor Freight ones, but I know you can get them there. The advantage, I think, typically of the plastic ones is that they don't scratch or damage any of your plastic, interior trim pieces when you're trying to get them off. Now, is the metal the same in that regards? Have you noticed it scratching anything or anything?
I haven't noticed any marring or damage.
No, and it's kind of a satin feel, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
That I totally agree with Justin on this. That tool, don't buy the plastic ones. They have little plastic sets. You don't need them. That is basically the only panel tool you need. If they had one with a little hook, maybe that's the only other one
Right,
you
for
might
popping the
need.
clips. Yeah.
Yeah. But other than that, all the rest of that makes everything else obsolete besides the fork.
Yeah, because you sometimes need that one, the
Right.
fork one, to get like between screws or something of that nature. Yeah. I haven't found any tools that have necessarily interested me. Although the one thing that I think is really interesting me and exciting me is how big and affordable subwoofers are getting. Right? It used to be that like a 12-inch subwoofer was pretty big for a home theater or a car. You're like, oh, I got two 12s now. And everyone's like, oh my goodness, you got two 12s. And then it kind of bumped up to 15s and people were really excited about the 15-inch subwoofer. Yeah. And now, but they were expensive, right? I mean, like if you want to get a 15-inch subwoofer in car audio HiFi Vega, how much were they? Like, I don't know, say 10 years ago. You know,
I mean, I would say back in the early aughts when I last got out of cardio, it was like $350 a minimum to get you a 15.
And that's like a basic 15.
Right.
And you can get now 15 starting off easily $100, $150. Yeah. Easy. You can get that starting out. And now they're jumping up to 21 inches. Eminence has a new 21 incher out that people are loving in home audio right now. That one's a little bit more expensive, like $750, but it's still not that bad for a 21 inch driver. And then Dayton has their Kraken now that's a 21 inch. That's, I don't know, right around $500. I mean, that's the cost of like sometimes the beginner 15 inches a while ago. So to see these 21 inchers come out is really getting exciting on what's going to happen in the future and cost of large subwoofers.
That's what she said.
he was queuing up. I could see in his face he had that queued up. He was ready. It was in the holster. He had to pull it out. But yeah, for sure that I think that they're a lot more exciting in home audio than car audio, only because you can basically in most cars fit one of them if you're lucky.
Yeah.
With the enclosure, but
you just need a big van. Right. You need a big cargo van, and then you can put like 6 of them. Yeah, just have a big base van. That's suburban. So if you want to be able to keep it in one piece still, it's crazy. I mean, 21 inches is the reason why I'm bringing up 21 inches because 21 inches is almost like the new 18 now, right? Like 18, everyone was really excited about even 2 years ago. Everyone's like, I got the new Ultimax 18. I'm so excited about the new Ultimax 18. Now you take a look at it and they're like, I got the new 21 incher. And I mean, it's just insane. And they're not relatively, they're affordable. The only thing is you need a lot of wattage. Well, you should necessarily use them. So
plus, they've mentioned in chat, and I don't know if you guys remember this, but Clarion did make a 32-inch subwoofer back in the day. Derek recently, someone had one at the fall OSS meet, and he had one on like 300 watts or 200 watts, and it was absolutely insane, man.
See, it's just crazy. And that's the thing, too. With a bigger subwoofer, your FS can get a lot lower, too. So you can start getting those lower frequencies as well, which is nice.
Yeah, and I think he had it in like a Fiat or something of that size. I don't know exactly what the car is, but it was of that size.
That should have blown that car apart. Justin, you got anything you want to add to that, man?
I am amazed just by how much things have changed, how much amplifier powers have gotten cheaper. And every single day I'm surprised by the amount of information that's available. Because I remember back in the 1990s, if you didn't know how to do it and you didn't know somebody who knew how to do it, you could not learn how to do it. And growing up off in the middle of nowhere where I grew up, there wasn't anyone really doing car audio who could show you how to do this stuff. And, I'm surprised every day by, people like us who are out there on YouTube who are like, hey, here's this thing I did. And, you can look it up. I had a commenter on one of my videos recently. Thank me so much for showing them how to get the radio out of the dash of a Kia. They said, you're going to save me hours. Like, no, I'm not. You're still going to cuss for 2 hours getting that damn thing out because it is a pain. And, it's just amazing that the information's out there. Cars are more complicated now. Yeah. But it doesn't matter how complicated the car is. If you've got no one to show you how to get the car apart, it could be the most complicated or simple car in the world. It doesn't make any difference.
That's a good point.
And I've had another thing that surprised me this year, and it's the rise of legitimately decent battery-powered soldering irons. So I've got the Milwaukee M12, and now there's the Aussie irons, which they're kind of in flux right now. But before then, there was a few companies that made battery powered. They would use like 1 or 2 AAA batteries, and they were terrible. But these new ones are legit, and they work, and it saved me so much time doing installs.
Well, and the good thing too is, especially for car audio, because with car audio, you need to bring that with you, and you may not have an AC source with you. You might all be all DC. So that's really good for them. And those all use like 12-volt supplies, right? So
yeah. It uses a 12-volt, just a standard Milwaukee battery. And I think there's a couple brands that are maybe 18-volt, but yeah.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
I ended up obtaining a butane torch powered butane torch powered soldering iron. And I mean, I'm really, I can't imagine how much better a good battery power one is, but just the ability to not have a wire attached to you when you're doing it. And I'm trying to do everything I can to get away from anything that has a wire or a hose or a cable attached to it, because it's just hard to move around when you've got to drag a wire with you. I bought a cordless brad nailer not long ago, and it's nice not having to dig out the air compressor and the hose and go brad nailing. I can just plug in a battery and off I go.
Yeah, I noticed that in your last video, and I wondered, I was like, I wonder how well he gets around with that battery-powered brad nailer versus the small, the pneumatic ones are very small, and you could really get in there. So right. I seen you, I was like, it looked like it worked okay, though.
Well, it's heavier than a pneumatic brad nailer. It's a lot bulkier. There's tight spots you're not going to get into. But, I mean, oftentimes I'm trying to get into a tight spot with the pneumatic one. Well, the hose is in the way.
Yeah.
And for some reason, the little blow off valve that sends the air out of the brad nailer, it's always pointing right in my face. I turn it the other way and then I go to grab brad nail in, bam, right in my face. It's just always a blast of air in my face.
So I'm going to switch us off topic for just a minute because there's something I want to talk about, and I think it's pretty cool. Bass shakers. Yeah, everyone knows I love bass shakers. The problem with bass shakers has always been their amplifiers. I use like these little Shure board amplifiers, nothing real crazy. They were pretty inexpensive, $25-$50, but then I had to buy a power supply and everything else, and there was no way to control it. Dayton Audio, once again, has come out with a bass shaker amplifier. It's really neat because it actually has a 5-volt hookup on the back. You'll see it on my channel soon. I'll do a review on it. It has a 5-volt hookup on the back, which allows you to wirelessly transmit your subwoofer cable from the front of your room to the rear. So you have to run the subwoofer cable. Yeah. You have to buy the wavelength system for that, but it works with it. And then not only that, so then all you have to do is plug it up to power, and then it has a remote control with it where you can turn off the bass shakers, turn them on, or adjust how much you want to use it, which is good because when I'm watching a romantic comedy, I don't really want to have my bass shakers on. Nothing, there's just really nothing I want to be shaken with on my couch during a romantic comedy. But when I watch King Kong or something else, then I want to be, shaken. So I like, yeah. And there were some amplifiers like Butt Kicker and other ones that did this, but a lot of people use those Aurora bass shakers or the Dayton Audio bass shakers, and these are designed specifically for those, which are less expensive bass shakers to get people in it. And it does a really good job. I actually had it on my couch, showed a scene in King Kong where his fist comes down, the bass jumps. And I swear I have video footage. You'll see it. You'll see the video footage. I promise. If you watch the video, you'll see the video footage of this. Everyone on the couch jumped up on the couch. They all jumped. They were so excited. I just love bass shakers. So I love the fact that that technology is coming out and people are trying to further those types of technologies.
Well, I like the rise of true wire. Well, not true wireless speakers, but wireless rear speakers in home theater. That was a freaking. I mean, that was a night. Like, if you got hardwood floors, what are you gonna do? You're gonna go up into the walls and then drop back behind. It's a
Yeah.
nightmare. It's just a nightmare when you can plug in a central little box with a little amp built in and just run the wires directly to them.
Yeah. And that's where I think Dayton's wavelength comes in handy is it can allow you to do that as long as you have RCA pre-out. You have to have RCA pre-out for that, which unfortunately, that's one thing that surprised me in a negative way is home theater receivers, unless you go for the real expensive ones nowadays, they have dropped a lot of their RCA pre-outs, which I think is a huge mistake because especially with like what you're saying, with a lot of people wanting to go wireless nowadays, what are they going to do?
So I've got a question about that. So my home theater receiver has 2 LFE outputs on it. Could I use one of those LFE outputs, or do I need an actual RCA preamp output
For what?
for what you just talked about for the bass shaker? And
Oh yeah, no, you could use that. Yeah, any LFE pre-out will work. Yeah, for that. But I'm talking about he was talking about like rear surrounds or whatever. Like
Gotcha.
rear surrounds, you'd have to have the RCA rear pre-out for that. Either RCA or XLR.
Could you use like the second zone? Some of these things have a second zone with the preamp outputs for the second zone. That wouldn't work.
Well, it would for second zone, but it wouldn't for like rear surround because when you're watching like a 5.1 or 7.1 signal, it's telling each speaker what signal to get, right? So if it's going to second zone, it's giving you a mixture of all the signal because it's trying to just mix it to stereo mode, basically.
I have another product that surprised me. This is going back into car audio. It is the GP Audio 6-lug battery clamp. Now, you might think, what's innovative about that? First of all, it's very thick. It's got thick bolts, so that's nice. But the innovative part of it is it has not only the screw for tightening onto your post, but a lot of times what happens is as you drive, that post starts to turn. They added a second set screw that goes into the lead post. So it keeps it right exactly where you put it, doesn't loosen up over time. And it seems like a small deal, but if you've ever dealt with these over time, that can become a big issue. And it really has helped. And I've been running it probably 8 months now or 6 months now, and it hasn't moved at all.
So all I heard from that is that you like thick bolts and you cannot lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like big blocks of aluminum, big chunks.
Big chunks of aluminum.
Yeah.
I like my bolts thick. It's good to know.
All right, I've got something that surprised me this year. I bought a can of 2 cans, actually 2 different brands of UV activated fiberglass resin. Have y'all ever tried the UV fiberglass resin? I can't seem to talk.
No.
Anyone in the chat ever tried it? So I bought the SMD brand, and I bought a brand the brand's called SolarRes. They sell mostly to surfboard builders. And so I just, took a couple of bowls and molded some fiberglass around them. And I took those things and just rolled them outside, and 10 minutes later, rock hard fiberglass cured almost instantly. And I was stunned by how these 2 little bowls I made, how strong they were, because I grabbed my bottle jack and tried backing the jack of my truck up on top of those things. And I ran out of play in the bottle jack long before anything failed. And I was just stunned by how much weight they could hold up. They had a little bit of give where I didn't have them fully strengthened, but I was just stunned by how quick that resin dried. And if you ever mess with just regular fiberglass resin, I mean, 2 days later, you go and touch it, it's still a little sticky, and it's like, what is this crap, right? But this SolarRes stuff, it does just fine. And I could just leave it in the garage with the garage door open, and after a couple of hours, it wasn't hard yet. But when you roll it outside in the direct sunlight, it's pretty rapid. It cures very fast.
Nice.
Yeah, and that resin, that I've wanted to try it. There's no activator, right? The sun is the activator.
Right now, I'm not sure about the SMD, but the SolarRes specifically says that there's this dual action or dual activated. So if you got some MEPK, whatever it's called, and drop some in there, it would activate like that. So if you didn't have the sunshine,
you can use it either way then.
Can you use a black light?
Yes. But it's got to be an actual UV light, not just a black light. I'm sure there's a difference.
Yeah.
I don't know. I see a lot of people in the chat talking about it. It's interesting stuff. You can actually buy regular fiberglass resin and get a UV additive to add to it and mix your own.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I haven't figured out how to do that yet because it looks a little complicated. So you can just buy some regular old Bondo resin from Walmart and grab some of that stuff and probably mix it cheaper than you could buy it.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
That actually sounds really neat. I do want to go back as well to something that HiFi Vega was talking about, which is the wireless rear surround. Someone on here said that they actually had their house was actually wired for surround sound whenever they had it made. And this is interesting. You guys would like to hear this. I was part of a Facebook group. They were talking. This guy's like, "Hey guys, I just want you to know, someone wants to do rear surround." And I'm trying to tell him he wants to do wireless rear surround system, but I'm trying to tell him to build his own speakers instead. So he's basically going to buy a sound bar with wireless rear surrounds. And one of the things I brought up to him, which I don't think a lot of people think about, is if you do wireless rear surround, you have to run power back there because you have to hook up power to something. And so I mentioned to him, I said, "Hey man, does he realize he has to run power to those locations?" And this was his response. His response was, "Yes. In fact, it's just a brand new house that they built, and they wired power specifically for wireless rear surrounds just in case." I'm like, why wouldn't you run wire as well? Like, why wouldn't you just run speaker wire and that? Then you'd have the option to do both. I mean, it's crazy. I could not believe that.
Yeah, you missed a step there, bud. He was like
a huge step. I mean, like,
yeah, I ran wires for mine, and it was a lot of work. I went up through the attic and around. I've got attics on either side of my upstairs, and this door right here is one of the attic doors. So it was a lot of work, but it wasn't that bad. It wasn't much crawling around in a crawl space or in an attic or anything like that.
Well, and I think all of us can agree that hardwired is always better than wireless if you can do it. It's just with the wireless is convenient, especially when you're doing like old construction, right? When you're trying to go work around old construction, that's when that wireless really comes in. So something like the Dayton Audio Wavelink system becomes a nice option.
Yeah, and have you tried the Sonos wireless stuff?
Have not, no.
I'm curious how it works. I've seen a lot of people say good things about them. If they weren't so expensive, I would have already tried some, but I'd definitely like to check some out.
I think that's kind of the issue, right? The cost associated with everything else that you can get on the market now, is it really that much better? Like, or is there a point of diminishing returns when you have options like Aurilic, when you have options of hardwiring, when you have options like the wavelength? Are these, and I don't know the answer to that, because once again, I think Sonos is one of those products that seems a little bit more unaffordable than they need to be. Maybe like a Bose type product for me. Although
Apple. They're trying to be the Apple of audio, like you've seen the trash cans, the HomePods. They sound really good, but I mean, original retail price was like $400, and now they're $300, which I think even still is expensive.
And once again, all because of DSP, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Heavily DSP'd.
I do have one point of clarification I want to make from it's an old show where we talked about RCA cables. Okay, so everyone was thinking that I would say that RCA cables can sound better, good RCA cables. Actually, what I was saying is a cheap twisted pair, those can introduce noise like the noise floor because they're cheap. They use the cheapest wire they can get. Their solder connections are usually poor. They use the cheapest connectors they can get. So I think once you get a certain level, you need a certain level of quality to be met versus like the Magic, the Unicorn RCAs, That was my point.
Yeah. What I would like to say to that too, and I think that people I think this is where concern is. I recently did a video on RCA cables on the monoprice ones that I like, which I do like. I mean, there's nothing wrong for the price. I think they're great cables. Can you get better? Yeah, but you're going to be spending more. But with RCA cables, someone said, well, how do they sound? And my point is, hey, RCA cables shouldn't sound like anything. And if they do, then you have either a bad RCA cable or a very poorly constructed RCA cable. Your RCA cables should not make any noise. You shouldn't get better or worse sound from them. You should just get the signal that's being sent.
And so someone mentioned to me, I forget the guy's name, but it's called the null tester. Have you heard of it?
I never heard of it, no.
An audio engineer where he is basically testing RCA cables to see the difference in them. So he compares one to the other, one reverse to the other, and tries to see what information is left.
Yes, I have heard of that. Now that you described it. Yeah.
That video has so much good information. It's 30 minutes long. It's absolutely the most boring video I've ever watched in my life. Because he's not meant for camera, and he's an engineer. He's 100% an engineer, and he's going to explain it to you like you were in your, in a classroom.
Has he got a face for radio and a voice for print?
Yeah. But the information is there, so it is worth watching. And he basically breaks it down for you, and it's very awesome. Just check out the null tester, and on YouTube. I can't remember the guy's name, but I subbed to him. He's got a lot of good stuff on there.
I'll have to check it out. I mean, that's the whole point, though, right? With RCAs, you shouldn't. And so, if something surprised us, it's that. You know what else has surprised me this year? I'll tell you that. What has surprised me is I feel like there are a lot of people have nothing to do because they're stuck at home with COVID, right? Which is good. That's good for DIY work. And so some people have decided that it is their mission to harass YouTubers. You guys got that issue at all? Like, where they're like, oh, and you're like, I'm just going to ignore you because I don't have anything to say to you.
Yeah. That's an oldie but goodie trend right there.
Yeah.
Got nothing better to do. Talk trash to a YouTuber. Try to get them mad.
Yeah, I just ignore you. I'm just like, I mean, I'll clarify if something needs to be clarified, but otherwise, I'm not gonna even go there.
Get Some Gaming says his methods hold true if you're in a Faraday cage. Now, the one thing that I will say is on the cheap RCAs when he was testing them, if he had them close to the mic, guess what? There was a crap ton of noise, and he's like, "Well, I got to put them over here." Like, that's what I'm talking about. That was my whole point.
Guys, something that surprised me, and I feel like we're an ad for Parts Express sometimes, but what you got to remember is there just aren't that many sources out there for DIY parts, and Parts Express is kind of the biggest. But these are some speakers that I built with one of their point source drivers. That's the PS95. They're a smaller one. And what I love about that is that copper phase plug. It is an amazing looking driver. And they've got a 6.5 inch and an 8-inch version of this thing. And it's a full range driver. I've heard of people putting them in things like transmission lines and stuff. And what I like about them is they look so good with that copper phase plug. And so it's nice to see something that looks nice, has a good visual appeal to it. And I've had good luck with it. I'd like to get my hands on some more of them. If you're just looking to get started, this was my very first YouTube video was building this speaker. And Nick's got to show me up with his 3D printed snail version of this thing. It's a fantastic little driver. If you've never built a home speaker before, just put these in a small box and see how you like them. And if you want to spend more money, jump up to the bigger ones. I think that a pair of the bigger ones would be great as rear fill in your rear car doors.
Yeah,
because they play great across the mid range.
The only thing I would throw in there is just make sure you know what you're getting. They're not going to have a lot of bass, right? They're not going to have a lot of deep bass, and they're not designed for that. But they are cool too because they have the inverted surround, so they got that nice unique look with that inverted surround on there too.
I'm going to tell you something. I saw a pair of hybrid audio technology hats at a car show once. Someone had some hats in pods. Looks exactly the same. It's a spitting image of the PS95. Colors are the same. The phase plug is exactly the same. It's about the same size. And so I look at that hat and I think to myself, this is supposed to be the best driver on the face of the earth, but it looks exactly like the, $20 or less PS95. And I wonder I wonder if you were to pull the hat label off the back, what it would be.
Who knows? You know, on those,
Could be.
that's why the people are building the quarter wave enclosures so they can get that bottom end out of them, that more full range sound. But yeah, Nick is right that you're not going to be able to get your actual sub bass out of something like that.
So, guys, we are running out of our time. There are some things that we didn't talk to, and the interesting thing is when I looked at some of your stuff that we didn't talk to, is one of them was something from Madia Sound, which is another place where you can buy drivers from. We didn't get to it. That's fine. You guys can check out some of the other things that surprised us in the link below. Make sure to subscribe to us on one of your podcast ones. So if you ever miss the video, you don't have time to watch it, check us out on the podcast. You're going to be all over any of your major ones, Apple, Google, Amazon, whatever. Guys, go ahead and tell us what you got coming up this week for the subscribers out there, and we can see what videos you have. What about you, Justin?
Well, the big thing that I want to bring up is I just started my own my first Patreon account, and I've already picked up a few of my new patrons, and I see El Fuego there in the chat. Thank you for joining my Patreon. So anyone who would like to support DIY content, all three of us have a Patreon account, and we would all really appreciate your support. This week, I've got a video coming up that's kind of going to be a little bit off topic or off my path that I'm on. But the week after that, I should post the video that finishes the home theater build I've been working on. So that'll finally be done after probably 2 months of dragging my feet on the project.
Thank you. Get some gaming. I mean, I can't even read today. What about you, Mr. HiFi Vega? 10K. So, you have 10K subscribers now. Your content has to be better now.
I'm kind of a big deal, guys, if you didn't know. But I just put out a Savard, a first look at the Savard wrap version 2 component set. I'm going to install those somewhere down the line. But this week, 12V Talk, Wednesday, 7 p.m., we're having Rob Hefner, I believe is how you say it. He was one of the first car audio podcasters ever. Didn't do it on video, but he done it. It was called Tech and Auto Files, one of the greatest audio-only car audio podcasts out there. It's going to be a really good time, and that's what inspired me and Big D to get into the business of podcasting.
Nice.
And, so that should be a great show. Reverse Polarity on Thursday with Dean. That's always fun. A little bit irreverent. And then Monday, I have a amp dyno of an old school SQ amp, and you guys are going to want to check it out.
Yeah, so I have my $100 build. So everyone that's been wanting to see that $100 subwoofer build, the 22 hertz, it is complete. I have been listening to it, and it will shake the house. Quick little, comment about it is I was testing it out with Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow, and a couple other scenes I always test out my subwoofers with. And I didn't know anyone was there. This is the room above the garage. I come back downstairs, and all of a sudden I see people in my backyard, and they're burying my Comcast cable line. And I said, hey, how are you guys doing? Do you guys need anything? And they said, dude, what were you doing? I thought your whole house was going to shake apart. And so it's pretty crazy. And it's not because the subwoofer is like, that crazy good, but it's because it can hit those low frequencies that a lot of subwoofers can't hit. So if you guys know, the beginning of that movie, for example, are subsonic frequencies. So it's pretty flat down to 22 hertz. Really exciting subwoofer build, especially since it's $80 for the subwoofer. So very excited about that build. Got a tube preamp for review. It's over there. That's too far away from me. So that'll be reviewed as well. And also have that BSA 200. I don't know if it'll come out I don't know if all of them will come out this week, but at least probably 2 of the 3 will definitely come out this week. So I'm excited. Can't wait to get those out.
Yeah, good times. I'll be looking for them.
Absolutely. Well, you guys have wasted an hour with us, so thank you for that. And we are excited to have you guys on the next show, which will be on DIY Audio Guy Justin's channel. So make sure you're there. We'll see you guys next week. We're out.